Okay, hi everybody, welcome. This is the review video for Unit 1. We'll be checking some topics from, like I said, Unit 1. And it's just a quick rundown of what we saw and what you need to remember for our semestral test very soon. So the first thing that we saw is how to differentiate between using the simple present and the present continuous. Now, these are very basic grammatical tenses. You know, simple present and present continuous are tenses that we have been seeing ever since book 1, if I'm not mistaken. And it's really important that we know the differences very well, because even though they're very basic, if we don't practice them, it becomes very easy to use them incorrectly. So we did this exercise in class where you were supposed to put the uses in the correct side of the table. So basically, if you remember, the simple present, which is this first column, we use it for facts or things that always happen, things that regularly happen or that are a part of a regular event. For routines and habits, things that we do regularly, for example, things that are in our day-to-day life, or things that we do with certain time in between. Timetable events, like for example, if there is a bus or a train or a plane that leave at certain time from their airport or from their station, then we can also use the present simple. And for plots of films, stories, and plays, so that we can describe what happens in the story, we can use the simple present. And then the present continuous, we can use it for actions happening at the same time of speaking. So right now I am explaining the topic, you are watching the videos, or you are listening to the explanations, okay? So it's what we are doing, right? Doing with ing, it's what we are doing at the time of speaking. We can also use it for continuing unfinished actions. For example, you are taking English classes. Obviously, right now, you may not be taking English classes like at this exact moment, but it's something that you are, if we take a look at the general time, you are taking English classes during this semester or during this school year, right? So it's a continuing unfinished action, even if it's not happening right now. For changing situations, like there is something that is like we have seen some changes throughout time and changes that are still happening, we can describe them with the present continuous as well. And for a future arrangement with a time reference, so we have seen this in unit, this is a review. By now, we have already taken a look at future tenses or future expressions with present continuous as well. So you should be able to remember this too. Okay, here in the presentation, I gave you a link to a extra grammar reference where they list more uses, where they list more of the things that we can do with present simple or present continuous. That's going to be in the description box of the video for you to see. Okay, we did this exercise in class. You are more than welcome to repeat the exercise so that you can have some practice. It's basically putting the verbs into present simple or present continuous forms according to the context of the sentence. Feel free to pause the video for you to copy it. All right, and now we shall continue. These are the answers. You don't like chocolate. We often go to the cinema. They don't eat rice every day. Do you like spicy food? Is he eating now? They are studying now. She works every Sunday. He doesn't go to the park very often. I'm going on holiday tomorrow, and I often read at night. Okay, so we have only 3 sentences in the present continuous because we're talking about things that are happening at the moment or things for the future with a time reference. Okay, then there was a topic or stative and dynamic verbs, and basically the explanation is this one. So dynamic verbs are sometimes called action verbs. They usually describe the actions we can take or things that happen, while as stative verbs, okay, they are verbs that usually refer to a state or a condition which is not changing or likely to change. So this definition is kind of confusing, or this definition doesn't give us a lot of information. So I'll show you some examples. Okay, so for example, these verbs, the ones that I'm going to list to you, they're always stative. They're always stative verbs. So they always refer to a situation that is not going to change, and therefore we cannot put these verbs into the present continuous. Okay, so no present continuous, only present simple. For example, admire, believe, desire, doubt, know, need, realize, recognize, suppose, understand, and want. What do I mean by these verbs not being dynamic and therefore these verbs not being able to put in present continuous? Well, that means that basically we cannot, right? We cannot make sentences like I am admiring or you are desiring or he is believing. All right. This is not correct because these verbs are stated. We cannot do these actions like it is described with ing. So it's only with simple present. I admire, you believe, he desires, do I know, does he need, etc. One of the or some of the most commonly mistaken verbs are these ones: know, need, and understand. People usually put them like knowing, needing, and understanding when it's not correct. Okay, it's not correct. Then we also have emotional states. If you remember here, these were mental states. These are emotional states. Like, for example, that's a very weird line. Like, for example, adore, amaze, appreciate, astonish, care, dislike, envy, fear, hate, like, loathe, love, mind, please, prefer, and surprise. So we cannot say, I am loving, or you are liking, or she is hating. No ing, no present continuous, only present simple. The kids love ice cream, she likes you, I hate washing dishes, for example. Okay, then we also have possession, like belong, own, and possess. Who owns that car? It's mine, I own it. Senses, like hear, okay? It's not I am hearing, okay? But other senses that are not in this list, like looking or seeing or watching or listening, those we can put in present continuous. We can put with ing, but not the verb hear. And we have some other verbs that do not fall in other categories, so they are just listed here. Like, for example, consist of, contain, cause, reserve, equal, exist. So existing doesn't it's not correct. Involved, lack, matter, perceive, promise, resemble, and seem. So we cannot put any of these verbs with ing. Now we have verbs that could be stative or dynamic depending on the context that you use them in. Again, we begin with mental states like consider, forget, imagine, remember, and think. One of the most common ones, or one of the ones that we could have some confusion about, is the verb think. Now, it's not just putting them with ing just because. There's a reason for that, and there's a difference in meaning when we put them as a stative or as dynamic. So when I say I think, it refers to an opinion. Like, for example, what do you think? Or I think you should accept that offer, that job offer. So it's my opinion, it's what I consider. But I am thinking is more like I'm actually doing the action of using my brain, right? It refers to the act of thinking, of using your brain to try to have some ideas, right? Like, what are you thinking about? Or I'm thinking about what to do next. So right now, I'm using my brain to do something else. So the act of thinking. It's a very small difference, or maybe a difference that is not very obvious, but it's still very important for you to know and to understand how to use each of these. We also have possession like have. If you remember, have was not in the previous list. And the reason is the following. Some people get really confused about this. So when I talk about I have as a stative, it refers to possession or relation. I have $120 with me right now, so it's possession. Or I have a dog, I have a house, I have a car, etc. Or relation, I have 3 kids, I have 1 brother. Or I am having refers to an activity, but it's very specific with certain phrases, like I'm having a party this Friday, or we're having a great time. So it's only used with certain expressions. You could also use it with food. I'm having lunch right now, or I'm having dinner with my family later. Okay, so it it definitely changes the meaning of the verb. Like I said before, except for the word here, the other senses are perfectly fine to use with ing. So for example, it tastes, it refers to a quality. The cake, it tastes delicious. So I'm talking about the flavor of the cake. But she is tasting refers to the person that doing the activity. She's tasting the soup to check if it needs more salt. So if it's like this, tastes like as a stative verb, it means that the object, in this case the food, has the quality of a certain flavor. And if I say, for example, she's tasting, it means that the person is doing the activity. So there's where the difference is. Other verbs, like usual, we have, for example, appear, be, cause, deny, include, look, sound, and weigh. Like a very common one, or maybe one that will confuse you a little bit, is the verb to be. We can actually put the verb to be with another verb to be in ing, like they are being. I'm gonna explain to you how this works. So if I just say they are, or I am, or he, she, it is, etc., it refers to a general condition or like a description of the person. They are helpful no matter what happens. So I'm describing their personality maybe, or a characteristic that they have that is always the same. They are helpful. That's their personality, or that's what the general way they are. But when I say they are being, it refers to a very specific time or a temporary state, like they are being helpful under the circumstances. So they are not always helpful. It's only under these circumstances or only at that specific moment that they are being helpful. Okay, it's like when you behave in a way that it's going to give you something like a benefit. So you do something out of the ordinary to do that. You are being different at that time, uh, usually to get something in return. Okay, and now the other topic in Unit 1 was indirect questions. Okay, so indirect questions, if you remember, let's describe them very quickly. They're just a more polite way to ask for information or to make requests, to ask for something. We often use them when asking something of strangers or people we don't know well, including co-workers or maybe your boss, sometimes your teacher maybe. It depends. Um, there's no specific rule as to who you should make indirect questions to. Generally speaking, it's just when you want to sound more polite and you want to get some information and you don't want to seem rude, okay? You don't want to seem rude. We also use them when asking for favors from friends, when we want to avoid sounding demanding. Okay, we don't want to sound like we are bossy. We don't want to sound like we are making them do us a favor, right? So it's just a way to sound more polite. How we can do this? Well, we can use some common phrases to start our indirect question. Like, for example, can you tell me? Or could you tell me? Do you know? Would you mind? Do you have any idea? Would it be possible? Etc. There's no specific list of phrases to use indirect questions with. It's just a generalized idea of having some kind of introductory question or phrase that can make us sound more polite. There are a lot of variations along these. There are some in your book as well, so I would recommend you go back to Unit 1 to check those out. Okay, but these are the ones we can use, some of the ones we can use. And here's an example of an indirect question. So, for example, where is McDougall Street? That's a direct question, right? We have, okay, where, which is donde. ¿Dónde está la calle McDougall, right? ¿Dónde está la calle McDougall? So that's a direct question. There's nothing special about it. It's just a question. Now we have the indirect question. So take a look at the structure. Can you tell me, okay, can you tell me, let's go back to this part. So here we have where. So can you tell me where? Here we have is. So notice a change here. Is goes up until the end of the sentence. And then we have McDougall Street. So there's a change in the structure. It's not only just putting a phrase at the beginning and that's it. There's a change in the structure that you need to follow. Can you tell me where McDougall Street is? All right. So that's an indirect question. Instead of saying, ¿dónde está la calle McDougall? We ask, ¿podrías decirme o puedes decirme dónde está la calle McDougall? And even in Spanish, that sounds more polite already. So that's what they are used for. Now, I already have a video explaining indirect questions in more detail. So I'm going to link that video in the description as well for you to watch, just so that I don't repeat the video. Okay, there's going to be another one that you can watch, and I have some examples and I also have some details. Okay, so I hope that you find the information useful. I hope that you are able to study a little bit, and I hope that I was able to help you remember some of the things that we saw. Okay, I'll see you soon in class in case you have any questions, and take care until then. Bye-bye.